Close your eyes for a moment and strip away everything familiar. No hum of cars, no roofs overhead, no safe walls. The world of the Stone Age was vast, wild, and indifferent. Imagine waking on a bed of furs and grass inside a cave that smelled of smoke and damp stone. The only barrier between you and the elements was a flickering fire that had burned low overnight. This was the world caveman woke up to. Their day began in landscapes that we would now call unforgiving. Endless forests, windswept plains, icy tundras. Depending on where a group lived, their mornings could mean mist rolling across a valley full of mammoths, or the shrill cries of birds echoing through a canyon. For them, nature wasn't scenery. It was a living presence, both generous and merciless. A successful hunt meant survival. A failed one could mean hunger and sickness. Every day was a negotiation with this world. A question whispered to the land, the rivers, the sky. Will you let us live another day? But it wasn't just fear. There was awe, too. Imagine standing at the edge of a prehistoric forest, the air heavy with dew, the rising sun spilling gold across the horizon. Our ancestors didn't see resources. They saw spirits, powers, mysteries in every tree and stone. The Stone Age was not only about survival. It was about belonging to a world that was alive, unpredictable, and sacred. When the first light crept into the cave, the group stirred. The children nestled deeper into furs, while the older hunters rubbed sleep from their eyes. The crackle of a dying fire meant one thing. Someone had to feed it before it died completely. Fire wasn't just comfort, it was life. Without it, predators dared to come closer, and the cold seeped into bones. So mornings began with work. Flint struck against stone. Sparks showered onto dried grass. Slowly, flames returned. Breakfast was simple, perhaps roasted roots, dried meat from yesterday's hunt, or berries gathered before the snow fell. But food wasn't always guaranteed. Some mornings, there was nothing but hope for what the day's hunt would bring. Conversations weren't in full words yet. Not like ours today. Instead, gestures, grunts, and shared looks carried meaning. A glance toward the forest told the hunters it was time. A hand gesture meant silence before leaving. Even in these simplest exchanges, you can sense the birth of language, the early threads of human communication being woven. And then, with spears in hand, groups split, hunters into the wilderness, gatherers toward rivers or forests, and elders staying behind to watch the children. The day had begun. Hunting was no casual errand. It was a dance with death. Picture a group of men and women, yes, women too, moving quietly across a plain. Spears tipped with stone, eyes sharp as hawks. They scanned for tracks, droppings, broken branches. Every sign was a clue. Sometimes the prize was small, a rabbit, a bird, a lizard. Other times, it was enormous, reindeer, bison, even mammoth. But with size came risk. One wrong move, and the hunter became the hunted. Cooperation was everything. Some distracted the prey, others circled behind. Spears flew. Adrenaline surged. Hearts pounded. A kill meant triumph, but also gratitude. For many Stone Age people, taking an animal's life wasn't done lightly. It was sacred. Bones and hides were used fully, nothing wasted. Meanwhile, gatherers collected the quiet but steady gifts of the land: berries, roots, nuts, mushrooms. Children often joined, learning which plants cured pain and which caused it. Their knowledge of nature was encyclopedic, not written in books, but passed hand to hand, generation to generation. Hunting and foraging weren't separate activities. They were two halves of survival, one dangerous, one patient. Together, they kept the fire burning another day. If you asked a caveman what invention defined their life, the answer would be fire. It wasn't just warmth, it was light in the dark, safety against prowling wolves, a place where stories lived. Around fire, the tribe gathered. Flames turned night into a circle of comfort, where faces glowed, and shadows danced across cave walls. Food transformed too. Meat that spoiled quickly could be roasted, lasting longer. Roots too tough to chew became edible. Fire expanded the menu of humanity. It expanded imagination, too. Staring into the flames, who knows what dreams first took shape. But fire was fragile. Rain, wind, neglect, and it vanished. That's why one member was often tasked with carrying embers in a pouch of bark or fur when traveling, keeping the flame alive from place to place. In many ways, fire wasn't just survival. It was a heartbeat. Lose it, and you risked everything. Keep it alive, and it became the center of human existence. Forget the stereotype of lone cavemen. Humans survived because they were never alone. Tribes often small, maybe 20 to 50 people, were families woven together by necessity and love. Within these groups, roles were shared. Elders taught skills, hunters brought meat, gatherers provided plants and herbs. Children played, learned, and contributed as soon as they could. Every person mattered. And bonds weren't just practical, they were emotional. Parents cradled children, lovers shared laughter, grief was felt when someone died. Burials showed that early humans cared deeply for their dead, laying bodies with tools or ornaments. This wasn't just survival instinct. It was compassion. You can almost hear it. Laughter around the fire. A lullaby hummed to a child. Arguments over food. Reconciliations. These weren't cavemen. They were families, as real and human as ours. Step into a cave, and the walls whisper stories older than any book. Handprints, painted animals, swirling symbols. The first art. Why did they do it? Some say it was magic, an attempt to capture the spirit of animals before a hunt. Others believe it was storytelling, the first record of memory, myth, or belief. But look closely, and you see something more. Imagination. A child's small hand painted next to an adult's, as if saying, I was here. 2. Evenings around the fire became theaters. Stories weren't written, they were spoken. Legends of great hunts, warnings about predators, dreams of ancestors. In these flickering moments, humanity's voice was born. Art was survival, yes, but it was also joy. It was identity. It was proof that even in the harshest world, humans craved meaning. The Stone Age day did not end when the sun dipped behind the horizon. In many ways, the night was when life became the most uncertain, the most terrifying, and sometimes the most revealing of human ingenuity. Imagine this. The fire is dwindling. Only embers glowing red against the black mouth of a cave. The air grows sharp and cold, every sound amplified. A crack of a branch, the rustle of tall grass, the low growl that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. For cavemen, darkness was not peaceful. It was a hunting ground, and they were not always the hunters. Predators ruled the night. Lions prowled in groups. Hyenas laughed in the distance. Saber-toothed cats slinked silently through the shadows. Even wolves, which later became humanity's closest allies, were once relentless threats in the dark. To leave the glow of fire was to gamble with your life. Every step beyond that circle of light was like stepping into the unknown jaws of death. But danger was not only animal. Other humans, rival groups, sometimes appeared after dusk. The Stone Age was not one unified world of friendly tribes. It was a landscape of competition, survival, and often violence. A group might raid another's camp for food, tools, or even mates. And in the cover of darkness, it was impossible to know whether the stranger approaching carried friendship or malice. This constant tension shaped how cavemen lived at night. Sleep was precious, but it could never be deep or careless. Tribes rotated watch duties, keeping eyes on the darkness, listening for danger. Fire was fed regularly, its light a warning, as much as a comfort. Without it, predators would edge closer, drawn by the smell of cooking meat or the faint cries of infants. Yet danger was not the whole story. Night also carried a different kind of magic. Around the fire, shadows danced on cave walls. Families huddled close, and the oldest members told stories. Fear outside sharpened the sense of safety within. In those dark hours, laughter, myths, and songs became the shield of the spirit. Think about this. The night forced humans to invent not only tools, but also rituals of protection. Charcoal smears across the body, chants whispered into the flames, bones arranged near the cave entrance. These weren't just superstition. They were psychological armor, the earliest attempts at building a sense of control over a world that felt uncontrollable. Danger after dark made humans inventive. They sharpened weapons, improved fire tending, built shelters with narrow entrances that could be defended more easily. But perhaps the greatest invention was cooperation itself. To survive the night, one person alone was never enough. You needed eyes, ears, and hearts working together. In every flicker of firelight, in every cautious glance into the dark, you can see the seeds of humanity's greatest strength, solidarity. When we think of the Stone Age, it's easy to imagine only the fight for food and survival. But survival is never enough. Even in the harshest landscapes, humans sought connection, meaning, and love. Yes, love. Archaeological evidence may not give us love poems or wedding rings, but it gives us hints of deep bonds. Pairs buried side by side, ornaments exchanged, tenderness etched into the way bodies were laid to rest. Love was not an invention of modern times. It was as old as fire itself. Imagine two people meeting by the riverside, sharing meat after a hunt, watching each other not just with caution, but with curiosity. Relationships weren't dates as we know them, but bonds formed naturally. Companionship for survival, care for children, and yes, attraction. To share warmth on a freezing night was more than comfort. It was intimacy, trust, and the beginning of families. But beyond love, there were rituals. The Stone Age was a world of cycles. Birth, death, migration, seasons. To live in such a world without patterns or meaning would be unbearable. And so humans created rituals, small and large acts that gave structure to the chaos. We see it most clearly in burials. Graves from tens of thousands of years ago show bodies carefully placed, sometimes with red ochre, sprinkled like symbolic blood, sometimes with tools or ornaments laid beside them. These weren't accidents. They were deliberate, a sign that humans believed death was not the end. Belief stretched beyond death. Some groups likely saw spirits in animals, gods in storms, ancestors in stars. A cave painting of a half-human, half-animal figure might have been the earliest glimpse of shamanic thought. The belief that humans could connect with the spirit world. Around the fire, rituals unfolded. Maybe songs that called on ancestors, or dances that imitated animals before the hunt. Imagine the flicker of flames on painted faces, the rhythmic beat of stone against wood, the deep hum of voices rising into the night. These weren't just performances. They were attempts to speak to the unseen, to weave humanity into the fabric of the universe, and love tied into these rituals. Pair bonding wasn't only practical, it was celebrated. Sharing food, exchanging ornaments, decorating each other with feathers or beads. These were gestures of affection. They were the earliest love languages, and they stitched individuals into families, families into tribes. So when we ask, did cavemen love? Did they believe? The answer echoes back from their bones, their caves, their fire pits. Yes, they loved, they hoped, they feared, they dreamed. And those same currents flow in us still. The Stone Age was not one long, endless struggle. It was a cycle. Abundance, scarcity, hope, despair, all turning like the seasons themselves. Spring was renewal. Plants burst back into life. Rivers swelled. Animals migrated. Hunters followed herds across valleys. Gatherers filled baskets with new shoots and berries. After the hunger of winter, spring was a feast, a relief. You can imagine the joy of the first ripe fruit after months of dried meat and roots. Summer meant movement. Longer days allowed longer hunts, fishing trips, explorations. Children played more freely, learning skills from their elders. Camps might move to follow herds or to find new water sources. The world felt generous, but it also demanded effort. Summer hunts could be brutal, with hours under the beating sun, chasing prey across endless plains. Then came autumn, the season of preparation. Just as animals stored fat, humans stored food. Meat was dried, berries preserved, roots buried in cool earth. Firewood was gathered in massive piles. Every decision was shadowed by the question, will this be enough for winter? And winter was the crucible. Cold winds, endless nights, scarce food. The world shrank to the cave, to the circle of fire. Many didn't survive. Malnutrition weakened bodies. Disease spread quickly. Predators grew bold as their own food sources vanished. But winter also forged resilience. It taught humans to plan, to cooperate, to adapt. Sewing furs, building sturdier shelters, crafting better weapons. Each winter was a lesson, and each survival was a victory. The seasons shaped more than survival. They shaped culture. Spring might bring rituals of gratitude, summer dances of abundance, autumn ceremonies of preparation, winter, stories of endurance. These cycles carved themselves into human memory, becoming myths that echoed long after the Stone Age ended. Think about it. The very idea of seasonal festivals we celebrate today, harvest feasts, winter holidays, may have their roots in these ancient cycles. Survival wasn't only about food. It was about hope, carried from season to season, like a flame that refused to die. And now, we return to the question that has guided us all along. What does the daily life of Stone Age cavemen reveal about us? The answer is simple, yet profound. Everything. When we sit by a campfire and tell stories, we are repeating what they did. When we hold hands with someone we love, when we bury our dead with care, when we plan for winter or celebrate the coming of spring, we are echoing them. Their daily lives were not primitive experiments. They were the foundation stones of humanity. The way they hunted taught us strategy. The way they gathered taught us patience. The way they created fire taught us innovation. The way they painted caves taught us imagination. And the way they loved, mourned, and believed taught us what it means to be human. We often call them cavemen, as if they were caricatures. But in truth, they were us, stripped of technology, yet filled with the same fears, joys, dreams, and curiosity. The same heartbeat that raced in a hunter's chest as he faced a charging bison beats in ours. When we face challenges today, their struggles became our inheritance. Their triumphs became our legacy. Without them, there is no us. So the next time you look at fire, think of the hands that first carried embers through storms. The next time you hear a story, imagine it spoken under a sky filled with stars brighter than we'll ever see. The next time you feel fear in the dark, remember that fear once kept your ancestors alive, that the Stone Age is not gone. It lives in our bones, in our instincts, in our longing for connection and meaning. We are not separate from those who painted on cave walls. We are their echo, their continuation, their dream fulfilled. And so, when we uncover the daily life of Stone Age cavemen, we aren't just looking backward. We're looking inward, into the oldest part of ourselves. The flame they lit has never gone out. It burns in us still.